We started writing the first draft of Lost together. JJ basically sort of talked for about 20 minutes about all the reasons that this wouldn't work as a show.
The whole thing happened incredibly quickly with very little time to second guess our instincts.
It cost $14 million, which made it one of the most expensive pilots ever made.
It's a show like you've never seen before. Watch it.
Aloha, fellow fans and Sawyer stalkers. I'm Kristin Holt, and as you can see, I'm having a pretty good day at work. For the next hour, G4 will be taking a look at the mega popular series, Lost. We'll go behind the scenes to reveal the tribulations and ultimate triumph of making what TV Guide calls one of the 10 best TV shows in history. But the Lost experience doesn't stop when the credits roll. We've got all the info you want on the awesome video game, the plethora of fan sites on the web, and maybe a few clues as to where the series is headed. We'll even throw in some of Attack of the Show's favorite Lost skits. From storyboard to screen, from polar bears to pop culture, we'll help you get lost. So, let's start at the beginning.
The head of ABC at the time called me and said, I want to do a show about people who survived a plane crash and landed on an island. So I met with this guy, Damon Lindelof, who I'd never met before.
The first time I actually saw J.J. Abrams, my wife was like, you should still go say hi, you know. You watch Alias every week, you're obsessed with the guy. And I was like, no, I can't talk to him. So.
The moment I met him, you know, I just knew this was a guy who I had to work with.
And we shook hands. J.J. basically sort of talked for about 20 minutes about all the reasons that this wouldn't work as a show. And then at the end of about 18 minutes, he said, but, and he started to talk about if the island they were on was really mysterious and weird, and this show was more like The Twilight Zone than it was like Survivor. If we looked at it through the spectrum of character, there might be a TV show there. If you start with just one guy who is lying on the beach at the time, even though in the show it ended up being on the jungle, and he opens his eyes, and he has no idea where he is, and he hears this noise, and then this dog comes running up towards him, and then it runs off into the jungle, and he's very confused. Then we could follow that guy to the crash, and we're now introducing the audience into this world through the character, and we become instantly invested in him. And then JJ was sort of nodding his head, and he goes, and then that guy should die. You know, that guy should die halfway through the pilot. And I was like, yes, he should totally die. That would be awesome. People will never see that coming. And then it became a dialogue. That was sort of the first idea that we had together. The next step was a torrent of emails that night about how exciting the meeting was and how this show that would never ever work in a million years, you know, might just work. And the first meeting was on a Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, we basically broke the pilot, all of us together. My mantra throughout every day of the whole process was, in a million years, ABC will never say yes to it because we need lots and lots of characters, it's gonna be genre, it's gonna be heavily serialized, it's everything that, you know, nobody on TV wanted to do. And then on Friday, I put together basically a 23-page outline, and then Saturday morning, Lloyd Braun called me at my house and said, you know, I'm greenlighting this outline. And I said, oh,
We had less than 3 months to write it, cast it, shoot it, cut it, and turn it in as a 2-hour pilot.
Usually these things take years, or they'll take like at least a year just to get up to the point where you're casting people. I mean, develop an idea and have it cast it and secure locations like they did, it was incredible.
Because the network was so desperate for it. Because this was happening at the beginning of February, which is about 6 months past when pilots are supposed to start developing themselves, that we could actually sort of say, you have to give us carte blanche, both creatively and monetarily, and if you really want us to do this, you just have to let us do our version of it.
The reported figure is that it cost $14 million, which made it one of the most expensive pilots ever made. I mean, some movies aren't made for $14 million.
So the whole thing happened incredibly quickly with very little time to second guess our instincts.
JJ and Damon kind of came up with the whole idea and started writing, and it all kind of happened at the same time we were in pre-production. And because of that, it was like a freight train going forward, and we didn't know who was going to be in it, or we knew that there was a start date, and we knew that we had to have a cast by then, and we knew the script wasn't even done. We were inventing everything as we were going ahead, so it just became this like, why don't we do this? And then the next thing you knew, we were doing it.
We were also meeting with casting director, April Webster, to start casting Lost. So we would just sit down with her and say, yeah, here's Jack, here's Kate, here's Sawyer. We don't even have sides yet, but these are the character types, so start bringing actors in. The actors started coming in, and we started changing our minds about a lot of the stuff that we had put in the outline. You know, because the outline was constructed so much on the fly, we started thinking, wow, we're not going to make it through with 6 or 7 main characters. We actually need 14. So someone like Yoonjin Kim would come in and read for Kate, and we loved her so much that it's like, she speaks fluent Korean. Maybe we should have a Korean couple where the wife speaks English, the husband speaks Korean, they speak Korean to each other, but he doesn't know that she secretly learned English because she's going to leave him. And then we put those 2 characters in the script.
Evangeline Lilly, I think it was like literally Lost is like her first speaking role. I remember when I interviewed her, I think she had done like a couple like, you know, extra work, and I think she played like a corpse in 2 movies or something. And so that's extraordinary to get that kind of dynamic of some people that this is their first big break.
What I love about casting is working to find someone who is unexpected in a role, or finding someone whose essence, whose voice inspires the character.
JJ's strength is surrounding himself with people who are really good to work with. That's where our success comes, out of really working with people that we love. I think one of the reasons why JJ brings a lot of his friends together and works with everyone is we all have kind of always had the same sensibilities.
But he really fought hard to get Larry to be allowed to shoot the pilot of Lost. There was a huge resistance to him at the studio.
I had to meet the executives, and I have not done a lot of TV. And they said, well, what have you done? You know, we see nothing in your resume that says you could possibly pull off something like Lost. All I could say was, yeah, you're right. I've known JJ for 25 years. We have a common vocabulary. I know what he likes. I have photographic skills. I've been shooting for 10 or 15 years. I know how a camera works, and I think I could help him make his vision. That's all I could say.
I think the early concern was, is it better as a miniseries or a regularly scheduled series? Can they keep the momentum going?
There was one point in the pilot where the ABC executives, someone suggested that instead of making a series, they just make it a movie. And JJ was arguing the point that, no, this is a series.
It would have been incredibly frustrating for us to have put all that time and energy into it and not been able to do the second episode.
They brought all this like amazing airplane equipment. You know, they literally, on a barge, they brought it over from Oakland. So they strewn this beach with these airplane parts.
We scouted the island, and we knew that the terrain would be really, really hard to shoot in. Our first day, there was torrential rain pouring, flooded out, you know, real rain. Half the rain you see in that show is real. It makes it hard. Everyone gets wet, everyone gets sick, there's mud, the lights blow up, the cameras go down. So the first week was really, really challenging.
The conditions were terrible. Like, we were shooting in the jungle. JJ is, you know, a stickler for authenticity and detail, and he brought half of the plane into the jungle, crashed it up against a tree, so the plane is sitting like this at night with all these lights, and every bug that's ever been created right in my crotch. Okay, and I'm in the cockpit, no pun intended, of this plane, and it's like awful. It was terrible.
I got bit by a lot of bugs. Like in the like I was only gonna be like, I have a bug bite on my face. Oh, I didn't know they bit faces.
JJ was very insistent on putting this sort of weird metaphysical thing that was going on the island and stuff. It was a really interesting idea, and how he approached it, and it was very difficult to figure out how to do parts of it. He's going, we need something fast that you wouldn't expect to see on this island. And I was like, what about a polar bear? And he's like, that's genius. I'm like suddenly now trying to find a polar bear, because obviously I cannot bring a polar bear to Hawaii, so I have to find an animatronic polar bear.
Lost broke so many rules. The question was, did it break too many rules? Was it going to have a trouble getting an audience on board to buy into this and go along for the ride?
I was like, no one is going to watch this. I mean, it's the greatest pilot ever, but at the same time, the trees are moving, there's a monster, there's all these characters to track, the pilot gets bitten in half, you know, there's this weird transmission. It's like, is my mom going to want to watch this show?
It was really kind of amazing because Lost really lifted the ABC network out of the doldrums it had been in. And that's no small thing.
Lost was absolutely worth the gamble. It just goes to show you that if you're creative enough and you're willing to take risks, that you can get a response from the audience.
When the show was sort of successful again, I had another oh moment, because now here we go, and hopefully people are going to like the answers to our questions, and how are we going to do the stories where we begin to reveal those answers, and how do we ask more questions in order to sustain it?
Whether the show had struck a chord, nailed the zeitgeist, or if viewers just like to watch sexy, sandy people, Lost was huge. Coming up, X-Play's Blair Herter is going to walk us through the first next-gen game based on the series, Lost via Domus. We'll also take a look at the show's continued popularity through the first 4 seasons, because it was pretty darn popular. Stick around.
My favorite character from season 4, I would have to say, is Saeed. I just like that there's somebody who could beat up Sawyer every once in a while, because I really don't like Sawyer. He's really annoying.
So talk to me a little bit about Lost.
Well, Lost is, I mean, it was a tremendous thrill for me to be able to join the show, and I'm just thrilled to be going back. I'll be going back next year for a number of episodes, and I can't wait. They don't tell me much, so.
Viewers were like waiting with bated breath, and apparently as cast members, you guys are too.
Oh yeah, listen, I get the script. They can't leave it at at the desk in the hotel room. They got to bring it to your room. Oh, it's hardcore.
Welcome back to our special look at ABC's Lost. I'm your guide on this magical mystery tour, Kristin Holt. We went all across the country to ask some of the best Lost critics why the show rocks as hard as it does.
Neither of us ever expected it to be what it was. For us, it was like, best case scenario, we will get a good, nice cult following, but never in a million years did any of us imagine that it would be Lost.
Before the pilot of Lost even aired on ABC, it was getting a tremendous amount of buzz.
And JJ came back with this grand, extraordinary pilot. Everybody was talking about this show, this huge phenomenon.
Almost from the get-go, I knew that I was watching something very special, very different, and something that was possibly going to change TV. There was this big looming question. Is the audience going to latch on to it? Are they going to understand it? And are they going to want to go along for the ride?
And we seem to be getting some nice buzz. You know, everyone seems to be thinking that Lost is going to be the show to watch. And we just have to wait and see if people respond to the material. But I think they will.
From the very beginning, Lost inspired this really intense fan following.
Lost premiered at 20 million viewers.
That was the first taste of like going, you know what, we might be bigger than we even know.
One of the things that was a concern for me is that when you write a pilot that's that good, can you follow it up with episodes that are that good? Right. And then they did. And they followed it up with episodes that, as you said, I think continued to draw you in and get better and better and better.
One of the things that sets Lost apart from a lot of other shows is the quality of the writing. And one of the things that challenged the producers from the very beginning is, how to turn this very simple, seemingly narrow premise, a bunch of people on a deserted island, how do you make that into an actual series? And one of the ways that they ingeniously came up with to sort of like actually give this thing legs is to burrow into the backstories of all of its characters.
Lost really found its calling card with the flashbacks.
We're going to use flashback a lot. There's going to be all these sequences where each episode is going to focus on one of the main characters and in flashback go back and give some hints and story into what their lives were like leading up to the flight.
Lost is really about these characters and the relationships.
It's about how your past you can't escape your past. It's about confronting your past, even when you're on an island.
It's a drama first and foremost, but it's also a science fiction show.
We are introduced to all these strange mysteries, including, the monster and that black smoke and the polar bears. And we're teased with the idea that there are other people on the island.
Just from the get-go with the monster in the forest or the jungle and this weird supernatural aspect of it, and the way the characters flash back. I mean, it was instantly drawing people in. I mean, you become invested with it.
A key element of Lost's success has been in finding a way to straddle two different worlds. One is sort of this sort of genre, sci-fi genre cult audience with a more kind of broad-based mainstream appeal.
It's all things to all people, so it can be a cult show and a mainstream show at the same time, and that constantly surprises us because, you know, it's very hard to sort of keep the cult fans pleased all the time without upsetting the general audience.
People love mysteries. They don't want to remain stagnant. They want to see things happening. Now, what ultimately happened to Lost, by the start of the second season, when we were introduced to this underground hatch, and then ultimately there were other hatches all over the place, some of the fans left.
Its audience has dwindled from season 1 into season 4.
I understand fans are fickle, you know, and you stay off air too long or you do something wrong that offends, it takes a minute to get your audience back. That's easy to lose an audience.
Lost was sort of born into this sort of TV environment and fan environment of people wanting to know for sure that the producers have a plan.
The fans constantly demand of us that we are not making it up as we go along. One side of it, it's okay. You have to have a plan. You have to have a map. You have to know where you're driving to. But how you get there, well, that's kind of the fun.
The business of television isn't to tell finite stories. The business of television is to keep series on the air for as long as humanly possible. So even if you do start with a vision and you're lucky enough to be a hit, you're going to get to season 3 and season 4, and even the best TV shows start struggling with coming up with ideas on how to justify yet another season.
The fans that are still with the show are used to delayed gratification. I mean, I think the people that want instant gratification were like, I am done with this back when the hatch blew up. It's like, the people who are with the show are like, okay, I will wait for my mysteries to be answered, and I think that they waited patiently, and you know, now we're going to get a chance to pay those off.
One of the big things that the writers did to ensure the creative vitality of the show is at the end of season 3, they negotiated an end date for the show.
Knowing how they want to tell the story exactly and how to time it, I think that was a big issue. And since they have all the information they need to know right now, I think it's really helping the show to just speed along.
It's some of the, I think, the best stuff I've ever seen on the page. The drama deepens and some of the characters go to places that I wouldn't expect. And it has become very, how do I say, raw, savage, and it gets darker.
So far, Lost has been a smart and scary thrill ride. And I am now more than a little uneasy about this beach because there's some creepy looking trees over there. And I smell smoke. And I think I saw one of the others, but it may have just been a G4 producer. When we come back, Blair Herder, our resident video game aficionado, will show us the ropes on Lost via Domus. Then we're going to check out where the series is headed. No doubt it's somewhere in the future, or the past, or still on the island. I'm lost. Stay tuned.
Welcome. I am Dr. Jay Hopkins of the Dorkma Initiative, and this is another Lost viewer orientation. Let us begin with last night's episode 205, The Lockdown, which, let me say, was a real whopper. It was really good. First incident, the map discovery. Locke was trapped inside the hatch during the aforementioned lockdown. A map was revealed, drawn on one of the blast doors. This map shows the location of all the other bunkers on the island. These bunkers have also been blocked off from a central area identified with a question mark. This is obviously the area sealed off with giant concrete doors that Locke and Jack had discovered previously. There are also a series of Latin quotes on the map, one of which is translated as, "The remedy is worse than the disease." The quote was written next to a bunker identified as the medical center. It is also a quote from the poet Virgil, who was Dante's guide through hell and purgatory in the Divine Comedy, which you've read. Incident 2, the discovery of the rations. There was mention of a PRD, or parachute ration drop, on the map, and a note that they happen every 6 to 8 months. The PA announcement Locke was trying to decipher was an alert that the bunker inhabitants were going to be locked in while the food was dropped and distributed. The crackling effect you heard was also which definitively explains what that spooky cloud of black smoke is. Take that, Peter Jackson. That is all. Again, I am Dr. Jay Hopkins, and on behalf of the Dorkma Initiative, I thank you for your participation in Lost. Good day.
It's addicting. Once you start, it's like you need to see what's going to happen.
Thanks for coming back. Or as the Hawaiians would say, mahalo. Or as Locke would say, it was destined that you would be at this place at this time. Way to embrace your destiny. Go you! Now that the French developer Ubisoft has unleashed Lost via Domus on the gaming world, we thought it would be fitting for our resident expert to give you a heads up on the who's, what's, and where's. Blair?
What's up, Losties? Blair Herder here, X-Play's news producer and occasional on-camera raconteur. Now, we're here today to talk about Lost via Domus, which means the way home for all you non-Latin speaking folk out there. J.J. Abrams and the show team weren't involved in the making of this game. However, that said, the people that made the game remain really true to the story, and they've actually found a way to write a completely original story that runs pretty parallel to what's going on in the show. The game does a really nice job of actually making you feel like you're a part of the episode. For instance, the game starts off and you're a passenger on flight 815 and you're a photojournalist named, I'm not going to tell you because you got to play through the game, but you're a photojournalist, you crash, you wake up on the beach, you have amnesia, and then it's up to you through a series of quests and like kind of fact-finding missions and things like that to piece together your past. Now, the way that this guy's story is told is, again, through flashbacks, and that's one of kind of the key elements that drive the story forward in this game. You start a flashback with a photograph, and then you have to play through a flashback sequence and collect clues within that sequence and take pictures to try to match the photograph that you first saw. And when you match that photograph with the photograph that you started the flashback with, it cues this backstory. So what I'm using here is I'm using the camera to try to focus, and I want to try to take that exact same picture. Bam! Now it triggers the flashback, which tells me a little bit about my backstory. Now, the game itself, a lot of what you end up doing is exploring the jungle. The environments are what kind of makes this game stand out a lot more. Some of the environments that you're going to visit in the game that you actually saw in the show are things like the Pearl Station, the beach camp, the Hydro Station, the Black Rock. And all of these environments, not only do you get to visit them, but you actually get to interact with them. When you're running through the jungle, there's a good chance the smoke monster's going to come out. Not very good. When the smoke monster's on the screen, as much as you can feel this way from a video game, because kids, it's not real, it's fake, but as much as you can feel tension, you actually feel that way in the game. So they do a really good job of translating the show experience into the video game. In addition to having environments that like pretty much perfectly mimic the environments that you see in the television show, you're also going to come across a lot of the characters that you're familiar with in the show. There's Saeed's in the game, Locke, Sawyer, Kate, Jack, Kate, and although the conversations are fairly limited to what you can and can't say to them, each of the characters has enough specific dialogue options to where you feel that you're having a conversation with them within the episode. For instance, Sawyer's gonna like kind of throw out a lot of wisecracks, whereas Saeed's gonna be a little more focused on like the technical side of things. Jack's gonna be a little more reserved and he's gonna question more things. Locke is gonna have more of like kind of a spiritual tint to what he says, and Kate's gonna stare longingly into your eyes. Kate's a hot chick, right? She's a hot chick in the game too, and it's very important when you're making a video game and there's a very attractive woman in the television show. You should always pay the fans a service and make the characters as attractive as they are in real life. Now, I'm not going to give away all the achievements in the game, but I will say that if you're a fan of Lost, then some of the items that you have to take pictures of, you're going to recognize from the show. Like one of the photos you have to take is a picture of Kate's little toy airplane that she used to play with, or like Charlie's guitar, or if you search really hard, Locke's wheelchair. So there are a lot of kind of like little winks and nudges to the fan base. So I just got to the end of the game, and if you can focus on the screen right here, I'll show you what happened. I'm just joking. I'm not going to show you that. Why would I show? I already get punched enough in the face by strangers when I walk outside. Why would I want you to be pissed at me? No. Go get the game, play through an episode of Lost just like me, and then thank me later.
Looks great, but if only there was a way I could control Jack, the real Jack. Oh, the fun we would have. Picnics, drives in the Dharma van, CPR practice. Well, after the break, we're gonna snoop around the net and find all the best Lost websites. You know, and it's gonna be dark soon. I need to start making shelter out of banyan trees. Don't touch that dial.
Welcome. I am Dr. Jay Hopkins of the Dorkma Initiative, and this is another Lost viewer orientation. Let us begin with last night's episode, episode 206, Dave. It was a rather thin episode. Get it? Hurley? Thin? Hurley's fat. Anyway, first incident, the Polaroid picture of Hurley and his quote-unquote imaginary friend Dave, taken by Hurley's doctor during Hurley's stay at a mental institution. It was used as proof of Dave's non-existence. However, upon closer inspection, two key elements don't hold up. First, when we see the photo taken, it's clearly daylight. In the developed photo, however, the windows behind Hurley are dark. Also, all of the other inmates who were clearly visible behind Hurley and Dave at the time the photo were taken are curiously absent from a developed picture. This seems to suggest that two photos were taken at two different times and that perhaps Dave did exist. Seeing as Livy was also clearly an inmate in the asylum, the Institute's connection to Dharma cannot be denied. Furthermore, when we see Livy at the end of the episode, make sure they didn't use beef stock. Leo, you even listening? Honestly. Incident 3, Hurley's accident. We find out from the doctor that Hurley was involved in an accident where a deck collapsed, killing 2 people. The facts around this incident are suspicious since they echo the mysterious number sequence 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. 23 people were on the deck. The deck was only built to hold 8. That's 15 over the limit. Plus Hurley, that makes 16. And that is all. Again, I am Dr. Jay Hopkins, and on behalf of the Dorkma Initiative, I thank you for your participation in Lost. Good day.
I am a fan of Lost, but as my friend always says, Lost? Oh, I hate that show, but I never miss an episode.
Kristin Holt still with you on G4's look at the Emmy-winning series Lost. Still on the beach, but I'm calm. The smoke monster is a figment of a writer's imagination. What I wouldn't give for one of Hurley's jokes right about now, you know, something to ease the tension. Well, if you've got a hankering for anything Lost, the internet has a few thousand options for you to choose from. Check it out.
Before Lost even premiered, suddenly there was all this buzz on the internet about this show called Lost. There are more websites on Lost than I have seen for any show, probably in the history of television.
Lost is the kind of show that, you know, in the old days we would have called a water cooler show. I think that we're going to start calling them message board shows, because that's what it is. The show ends and you run right to your computer and log on to your favorite, you know, message board, and you talk about it, people from all over the world.
We saw some fan sites as soon as the first shows went on the air, but they were sort of casual fan sites. I think it was between the second and third seasons that the fan base got really, really devoted because they had their theories and their feelings about where the show was going. It was that, I think, between those seasons that you saw the phenomenon really kick in.
The really good sites, they're updated. They keep the information coming, but also they have a great community. Sort of the aspect of fans coming together and having the ability to trade different theories, different ideas, coming up with their own different research. The Lost community is global. You see people from all over the place. I think the most amazing thing is they're not all geeks. I know people whose parents would never go on the internet for anything but email and maybe movie listings. who go to Lost message boards. The great thing about the fan sites is that it offers the community support to, draw your attention to what things you might have missed, to help remind you of what's going on. People say Lost, I'm confused, Lost is confusing. Lost is a show that asks you to pay a lot of attention.
The web helps people to remember everything that happened and connect the dots between those things. I would say the majority of the websites you find are fan-generated, but a lot of the best ones you find are the more structured ones that then have huge fan participation in them. The ABC site being one.
The creators of Lost have done this amazing thing, an alternate reality game, where there are websites scattered all over the place, hidden away. You get clues on the show, you get clues on TV commercials, you get clues sometimes even in the newspaper that point you to these sites that divulge hidden aspects of Lost itself. What's really cool about the Lost experience, they've actually turned these sites and the information revealed in them into big plot points in the show. There is stuff that actually pays off, and that by playing the game, by going to the sites, you're actually learning more about the real mythology of the show. It isn't just some kind of throwaway.
The thing that has made Lost a unique web presence is the show itself is very aware of the online sort of fan community, and I think pays attention to them and interacts with them and reads what they have to say. And there are things in the show that almost feel like a reaction to the fan community.
The Lost cast is incredibly active on the internet.
I would say that if you're reasonably articulate, if you can make a point, if you're a passionate fan of the show, and you write on any kind of high-traffic site, chances are your work has been in front of the producers or the star that you're writing about. It gives the audience power. I also think it gives the filmmakers power, because they know now that what their audience is reacting to. I think that's really liberating, is now you can write for that audience, you can indulge things, you can follow whims. I think it's got to be exciting on both sides.
If you're ready to log on and let your theories ring out, you might want to try some of our favorite sites. Lostpedia.com, which has all the info you could ever imagine needing. Fuselage.com, king of Lost forums. darkufo.blogspot.com, where all the fanboys and girls get their spoilers. docarts.com, and 4815162342.com. Still to come, we'll check out the future of Lost. Remember, we're in this together.
Welcome. I am Dr. J. Hopkins, and this is another Lost viewer orientation. Let us begin with last night's episode. Episode 216, The Whole Truth. First incident. In a flashback, we learn that Sun and Jin had difficulties conceiving a child. Back on the island, Sun begins feeling faint and nauseous and asks Sawyer for a pregnancy test. The test, it is revealed, was manufactured by Widmore Labs. This is the same name as Widmore Construction, a company seen in one of Charlie's flashbacks. Considering that Michael was a construction worker, perhaps this hints as to why Walt was kidnapped by Dharma. Next incident. Locke and Jack release the mysterious prisoner Henry Gale from his makeshift prison in the hatch and offer him breakfast. On the cereal box is a code that reads DL9FFTR731. This proved easy to decipher. The code is clearly a reference to the... isn't that incredible? It totally changes everything. I was sure I knew what the island was, but now it's all up in the air. Incident 3. Reruns. Seriously, ABC, what is the deal? Cliffhangers are bad enough, but cliffhangers followed by 4 weeks of reruns is intolerable. Even here at the Dorkma Institute, we're having a hard time remembering what happened last time. Do you want people to stop watching? Because they will. We're gonna stop. Leo, stop it! Would you just leave it alone? We're going on, come on. All right, we're back on. That is all. Again, I am Dr. J. Hopkins, and on behalf of the Dorkma Initiative, I thank you for your participation in Lost. Good day.
Carlton Cuse, Damon Lindelof, thank you so much for sitting down. This is a 2-on-1, which we haven't done before, so I'll be gentle.
I've seen the Attack of the Show, sort of writer's room of Lost.
Yeah. Did you see that?
Oh, yes, I have. You wad.
Out of love. Out of love.
Yes, absolutely.
Could they shipwreck on the island like the Harlem Globetrotters did in Gilligan's Island?
Ooh, there's basketball. The Harlem Globetrotters are not going to crash land on the island. All right, come on, people. We need to focus here. We're working under the assumption that this week, the island is actually a giant ant farm being run by aliens.
Wasn't that last week?
No, last week we worked under the assumption that it was a snow globe owned by an autistic girl.
Is there anything for Claire to do this week?
No.
Okay, I'm just asking. Kate shouldn't have all the fun.
Hey, guys, I wrote a thread where Sawyer gets the drop on the others. And that's all I got.
Isn't your resume just a series of never-ending shows that just get smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually you'll die?
Obviously, you would simply have one of the others hold a gun to Kate's head and then Sawyer surrenders. We do it like every 2 weeks. You guys constantly overthink this. Kate gets captured very easily.
Good point. Good point. Real quick, people. Just reasons why Hurley's fat. Go.
He's eating members of the tail section.
I like it. I like it.
Has anyone considered my idea that Locke and Echo are the same person?
We killed Echo, so I don't know what you want.
Dream sequence.
Yeah. Yes.
Besides, we need to start pushing to ABC's new show, Black Man vs. Polar Bear. I guess it's been a ratings bonanza whenever we've had a polar bear attack a black man on the show.
Do we still have the suit?
The black man suit?
The polar bear suit.
That would be a lot funnier if I wasn't fighting for survival here, guys. Wait, shh. Did you hear that? Just cut to the segment. It's about what's coming up on Lost. Shh. Just go.
Once we got to the 4th season, I think suddenly the fans started thinking, wait a second, there is a direction. They do know what's going to happen.
One of the smartest things that the Lost producers ever did was nail down an end date. We've seen the fruits of that because the storytelling has been tighter.
Season 4 is all about a big disagreement between the two castaway leaders, Jack and Locke. Jack believes that the freighter folk are there to rescue them. Locke believes that the freighter folk have come to destroy them and destroy the island.
The first 8 episodes is going to be everybody on the island going, the people on the freighter are coming to kill us. And then the second 8 episodes would be the people on the freighter are killing.
The 4th season of Lost culminated with basically a war for the island in which the castaways had to fend off these menacing mercenary freighter folk and, save their own skin, but save the island. And it resulted with a very mysterious event on the island in which the island literally disappears. In the 4th season, they did something really radical that helped sort of sustain interest even more. They abandoned flashbacks to a large part and introduced flash forwards. The other major story arc of season 4 was actually set in the future, and it followed 6 characters that we learned got off the island successfully. The flash forward stories ultimately built up to the revelation of how they got off the island and what their life is off the island right now. The big reveal at the end of season 4 in which flash forward Jack has an encounter with flash forward Ben at a funeral home in which they find out that the man in the coffin that Jack visited in the season 3 finale, the occupant of that coffin is none other than John Locke.
They're doing a great job of balancing letting us know some things, but still keeping us in the dark about other things. And part of that is because of the flash forwards.
Do you think this show is all about building up to finding out how they get off the island? So we're going to tell you that they did get off the island, and we're going to tell you that this story is so much bigger than you think because it extends off the island. And the ultimate end of the story may not be how these guys got off the island, but how they came back to it.
We have to go back, Kate. Suddenly, we're realizing that maybe part of the mystery of the island is that it's time traveling.
This sets up, presumably, the whole focus of season 5, which is how did John Locke get off that island, become Jeremy Bentham, get in that coffin, and how will Jack and the rest of the Oceanic Six work with Ben to get back to the island?
The stakes get ramped up a little bit here, and some things just have to be done.
I think they left us in a very, very good place because we're excited about the show again. We want to find out what happened off the island. We want to find out what happened where the island is now because Ben apparently moved it. Where are they now? Are they still alive? What's happening? I think the show was left in a very, very good place.
I think we intrigued the audience with these new characters like Miles and Charlotte and Faraday, and we had a lot more to tell you about them, but we didn't have room for that, so that stuff got pushed into season 5.
I think it's just amazing the fact that we have so many questions, even though we've gotten so many answers already.
I personally think it is impossible to get all the answers. There are dozens of theories out there. Everybody has their own theory about Lost.
Now that season 4 is over, one of the most popular theories is that Charles Widmore once moved the island and now he's trying to find it and trying to get back to it.
Two very popular thoughts. Are they like, trapped in some kind of like Bermuda Triangle kind of place? Have they crash landed on the lost island continent of Atlantis?
One of the theories is that Charles Widmore was the captain of the Black Rock when he was a pirate ship, and that his time on the island is what kept him ageless.
Another theory is that it is a hallucination on the part of Hurley, who of course was in a mental institution. A lot of people seem to think that this is a video game.
You're so desperate to figure out what to do next, you're even asking me for help.
Nothing has been proven true or false. We're not going to know until that very last episode. Lost is going to live on for a very, very long time. Even after it ends, I don't think this is going away anytime soon.
Our assumption is that the show's going to end on ABC. That's how we're planning. And, all those things are rumors and conjectures. We haven't really ever sat down and said, oh, should we make a movie? Should we not make a movie? Our plan is to, start it on TV, and, we'd like to finish it on TV.
If it does come back in a theatrical version, I think you have to give it some time. You can't rush and bring it back the following fall, the following year. Give it a few years, but remain true to what that show is. Remain true to the characters, to the mysteries.
Right now, Lost fans are in the middle of a very long hiatus, but there are ways for them to sort of get more Lost. ABC is launching a new internet-based alternative reality game.
I advise any fan of this show, you have to watch it at least 2 or 3 times, because when you go back, you're going to see things that you had not seen the first time around. There are so many things happening on this show, you can't catch it the first time around.
Otherwise, Lost fans are pretty out of luck. They gotta endure a long, painful wait to find out the resolution of the big cliffhangers of season 4.
So the smoke monster was just a bunch of hippies doing something technically illegal without a prescription. Speaking of the supernatural, Heroes returns this September with season 3. G4, your Heroes cable home, brings you an all-new episode of the smash hit series each week. Catch all new episodes of Heroes season 3 coming this September. Can't wait? Relive all of last season's greatest moments with our Heroes season 2 marathon starting right now. I'm Kristin Holt, and I'll see you on the island.